third Monetize conference. I went to Boston, San Fran, and then here. And it's so impressive to hear people's stories and how CustomerGauge has changed so many companies in very different industries. It's very inspiring. So you inspire me too. So thank you for inviting me and letting me tell our story. So what is a CEO's worst nightmare? There's a lot of nightmares that can happen, but I think we can all agree that losing a major customer who is a very large part of your business, a foundational customer, I think we can all agree that would be pretty much classified as a nightmare. So you guys know when you're like falling asleep and sometimes you have this feeling that you're falling and then you wake up and you're startled and you're like, you look around, it's like, oh my God, thank God, I didn't actually fall, it's just a dream. And you're like, okay, I can go back to sleep now. So that feeling of falling and being so grateful that it's a dream, that feeling of the sinking, I've had it, and it wasn't a dream in my case. I was fully awake, unfortunately. So I want to talk to you today a little bit about what is Alchemista, so you understand the context of how I came to find CustomerGauge, or CustomerGauge found me, actually. Tell you a little bit about Alchemista, tell you a little bit about what I think is probably the biggest mistake that I've made as a CEO. The biggest mistake of losing a customer. And I think about it every day. So tell you a little bit about my very embarrassing mistake. And Camilla said this building used to be a church. So it's very appropriate to have a confession in front of 200 people. So thank you. And then I want to talk to you a little bit about CustomerGauge and how it's literally transformed our company since we've used it the last 18 months. So a little bit about Alchemista. As Camilla mentioned, we're a premier food and beverage solution for companies, very specific type of companies. So our clients, Boston, I should start by saying our office we have a Boston office and a Washington, D.C. office. Both very, very competitive markets, especially Boston for the tech community, because every company is trying to hire the best engineers, the best salespeople, very competitive. And Google is there too. So all of the clients who are trying to hire these same people as Google have to offer the same perks and try to get that same culture that Google has, because that's what's expected, and that's the standard now. So it's not even really a perk anymore, it's just a standard of that you have to have an awesome office culture, you have to provide free meals to your team, and not just random meals, but it is a fixed program that is part of the benefits package for the employees. So that's where we come in. So we help companies compete with Google in that space. And it's no easy task, let me assure you. So we do that by helping these companies create a fun environment around food and experiences that go with it. So food plus experience equals culture. And that's where Alchemista comes from, 1 + 1 = 3. We don't make any food. We don't make anything, thankfully for my clients. But what we do is we know how to find good food. And we are really good at finding these small, local, mom-and-pop kind of places that most people in Boston or DC have maybe not even heard of. And we help those restaurants be able to cater food to these very lucrative large accounts. So our typical client provides free catered meals to their employees on average 3 times a week, some of them once a week, some of them 3 times, but it's a fixed program. It's not just, companies who are ordering random food for a meeting of 12 people. That's not our client. Our client has a minimum of 75 employees. This is large scale. So 75 employees, 1, 2, 3. We have our largest client is 700 people, 5 days a week. They provide free meals. So that's a lot of coordination and a lot of food. There's even some companies that provide multiple meals in one day. So companies work with us, they outsource that whole process to us. and we make it fun, we make it interesting. I think the most important thing in the context of CustomerGauge, because my goal here today is that you guys never make the same embarrassing mistake that I made. And it's very easily avoidable with CustomerGauge. So our model, because our clients are subscription, they are fixed, it's a part of their perk program, so it's a recurring revenue subscription model. And I'm sure many of you here have that same business model. As you know, it's very important to retain your customers and very hard to get them because everybody wants that type of customer. So in my case, in Alchemista's case, there's not that many companies. So, the companies who do compete with Google, they spend a lot of money, but there's not thousands of them, okay, in a city. So we don't have thousands of clients. We have a short list, and therefore, every single client is way more important because we're never going to have thousands. That's not our business model. And getting them is really, really hard. It's a very competitive industry. Keeping them is really, really hard because we have to execute well every single day. So the 700-person company that we have, they want food at 11:30, 700 people, and people have meetings scheduled. They get their food, they go to a meeting. So if the food shows up 45 minutes late, how do you think we look? People aren't happy if we disrupt their day. So really hard to get these customers, very hard to keep them because the competition is always trying to get them. And losing one of them is disastrous for our business because the customers are not that many and they're big. And we tend to hold on to them for, we've been in business for 5 years. We have clients that have been with us since day one. And we don't do contracts. So we are executing on awesome service. That's what they pay for. So that recurring revenue subscription over many years is what the value of the company is. So that's our value proposition. So I think with that, I want to talk to you about my confession in this very appropriate space. So a couple of years ago, there was a company in Boston that we had been trying to get as a customer. It was a company that has 300 employees, 5 days a week. So in our world, that client is about $2 million account. Because once we get into a company, we call it land and expand. So we get our foot in the door. They might test us for one meal, then they just get spoiled with the service and have fun. So every account goes from this to this. But that happens because we retain them and we're able to grow them. So this client, 300 people, 5 days a week, we had been trying for about 6 months to get into that account. Like we wanted that account so badly. My sales team would go over there, try to get it, and it just always stopped. So I went on LinkedIn and saw that the CEO of this client was connected with one of my mentors, my most important mentor, that they knew each other on LinkedIn. So I reach out to my mentor, I'm like, hey, this client, this would be an awesome account. We can crush it. We're such a good fit for them. Can you please make an introduction for me? So of course, he does it, sends an introduction to the CEO. This is a CEO of a publicly traded company. And based on that introduction from my mentor, he didn't even meet with me, didn't even blink. He's like, you're in, 2 days. 2 days a week you guys can do and you can start right away. So that sales cycle that went from 6 months went to about 5 minutes because of the introduction by my mentor, which makes all this story more disastrous. So, well, I hope you feel it because I think about this every single day. Every day, this mistake that's really embarrassing. And I let myself down with this company, let my employees down, and most importantly, let my mentor down, who stuck his neck out for me and also was embarrassed because we messed up. So this CEO gives us 2 days a week out of the 5, and we're excited because we're like, hey, you know what, we're going to get the 2. We know we're going to get the 5, within a very short period of time, they'll end up giving it to us all. So even at the 2 days a week, they were about 20% of my business. 20% is a big client. And this client was not in downtown Boston. They were in a suburb a few miles outside of Boston, not like far, like 5 miles. But all of our other clients are within walking distance from our office. And when we started this business, I love relationships, I love sales, I love talking to customers. I knew every single customer, they knew me, we had a relationship, they knew they could email or call. But as the company got bigger and we have more clients in 2 cities, all of a sudden I couldn't meet with every client and have a relationship, and some clients I've never met and never will. So this particular client, because they weren't within walking distance, I put my top sales exec on it, most trusted in my company. He was our first sales employee. And I'm like, Ian, you know how important this account is, right? Like, there's a lot at stake here. So I need to, like, be informed. So Ian manages the account. Things are going great. You know, every few days, I'm like, Ian, how's it going? You know, any issues I need to be aware of? And the answer is like, no. You know, things are great. They love us. They love the service. You know, there's a few hiccups here and there. You know, the food was late one day. They forgot the vegan person's meal, who happens to be the CEO. And, you know, but they're okay. They were totally fine with the mistake happening. That was the feedback that I got. So, you know, it's hard to deliver food perfectly for 300 people. Like, it's not, it would be a miracle if every day was executed perfectly. So it's not that strange to have these little things happen. And my sales guy, it's not that he was malicious. He genuinely did not think these were issues that would be problematic. So, you know, we're going along, have this account, and 9 months into it, I get an email from the CEO. One line. It says, it was a Thursday afternoon, I will never forget it. Thursday afternoon, I'm sitting at my desk, and I get this email, one line from this CEO who had previously been extremely nice to me and let us in. One line, thank you very much. Your service stinks, our employees hate it, and you guys are fired. Not just that you guys are fired, but our days, the 2 days that we had, were Monday and Thursday. Now, typically, a big account like that gives us like 30 days notice, even though there's no contract, just because it's a big account, and we hire people based on the accounts. He was so upset and thought our service was so bad, he said, don't come back on Monday. Like, you're fired as of today. And as you can imagine, that feeling that I'm talking about of like falling, I'm feeling it right now, just talking about this. But I think about that every day, and I remember that feeling every single day because it was such a letdown for everybody in the company, and I take full responsibility because I didn't go to this client. I depended on my sales exec's feedback. So the second chart that you guys see up here, that account was 18%, or roughly 20% of my company when we had the 2 days. Had we kept them and grown them to the 5 days, which was the plan, they would have added up to almost 40%. We're talking millions of dollars here, and not just millions in 1 year, millions over multiple years. So the value of one client is off the charts. So, as you can imagine, like, where the hell did that come from? Like, you know, I thought these little things happened. So I go to my sales guy, I'm like, hey, what's the deal? We just got fired. And, you know, he told me it was totally fine. He's like, well, you know, they were actually late 3 times. You know, we actually forgot the meal several times. They ran out of food a couple of times, which is a big deal. Like, if some of your people can't eat lunch and they don't have food, that's a problem. So I felt obviously completely blindsided, which is the understatement of the year. And obviously wrote the CEO, said I'm very sorry, very embarrassed, because my mentor, who's also a CEO, had stuck his neck out to make this introduction and to help me, and I told him we would crush it. And we completely screwed up in such a bad way that we got fired on the spot. That's the only time, actually, we've been fired on the spot like that. So, all around, a disaster. There's no other way to put it, a disaster, and the biggest mistake I've made since being a CEO. And I never want to make that mistake again. And I made a commitment to never not have information about clients ever again, and have that same sinking, crappy feeling of being completely just slapped in the face. That's exactly what it felt like. So, I'm telling my mentor again this story. And the turning point came when he says, there's this product, there's this thing called CustomerGauge, and you should probably take a look at it. So he says in his very scholarly way, as I'm telling him that we got fired, he's like, Christine, getting fired is a lagging indicator. A lagging indicator means you didn't see you didn't see it coming, basically. He obviously could tell I felt horrible. So he's like, you need to check out this CustomerGauge. I'd never heard of it. We had nothing like it in our company. So they come out, Clark, probably the easiest, quickest sale he's ever made. So they start showing me, CustomerGauge, they do the pitch, and about 3 minutes into it, I'm like, where do I sign up? Because this is a no-brainer. There's something that can help me get direct, unfiltered feedback from every customer, no matter how big we get. And they're like, yeah, that's what it is. I was like, where do I sign up? How quickly can you get this set up? Because I never want to have that feeling again. And it could have been, that would have never happened. That mistake that I made, had we had CustomerGauge at that point, it wouldn't have happened. Because I would have known, and I could have intervened and realized that there's these small things accumulating. So there was no one disaster. There was a bunch of small things that surveys would have caught. So we operated for a few years before CustomerGauge, and honestly, it's a miracle that I didn't have more stories like that, because we just got lucky, I guess. But as a business grows, you can't depend on luck. And having that unfiltered feedback helps me to sleep better at night, because I know that can never happen again, and it's not going to ever happen again. And such a simple tool that, frankly, is the highest ROI of anything I've done in my company. Anything. Because one customer is worth millions. And getting one survey back that allows us to save that account or even thank them for being an awesome client, that's a game changer. So Clark and Andrew come over. They implement the thing as fast as possible. It was the week before Christmas. We met them. I'm like, can you guys come in that week? They're like, no, it's a holiday. We'll see you January 1st. So I think one thing I should stress is that since we've had CustomerGauge, it's been about 18 months, we've had 100% retention rate. I'm going to say that again in case you guys thought maybe you heard it wrong. We've had 100% retention rate since we got CustomerGauge. Well, I think the applause actually goes to the CustomerGauge team. So it's been a game changer because, again, allows everybody to sleep better at night, allows us to have direct feedback, allows us to keep our customers. Now, I know Camilla's probably going to come up here and pull me off the stage for what I'm about to say next, because it is blasphemous in this environment. So, I really don't like math. I really don't like math, and I'm not good at it. I am living proof that you can graduate from MIT and really, really be bad at math, okay? So especially when you're talking negative numbers and, 0 to negative 100 and all this stuff, it's like, psh. So I don't know what our NPS score is. What's more important is it doesn't matter. I don't care what our NPS score is, because what matters is we have a 100% retention rate, and our business has grown over the last 18 months within each account, which is very important. We have actually changed our hiring from going to finding salespeople who have to get new accounts all the time to hiring account managers, because we can grow and keep our clients so much longer. So for those of you who like math, and NPS is your thing, good for you. But the most important number for me is that I see revenue growing, top line growth, and that's a combination of keeping our customers, growing our existing customers, and the ones that we add, obviously keeping them longer. So I think the other thing that's really important that I've been impressed with about CustomerGauge is the change on the culture that we have created in the company. We've always been very focused on customer service because we don't make anything, right? We're offering a service. So that's always been kind of our, words that we say, and we did it. The minute we implemented CustomerGauge, and everybody knew that I'm going to read every single one, and not just that I'm going to read every single one, but every survey response is going to everybody instantly. That one change of having transparency and having everybody know what's happening with every account has been transformational for my company. Transformational because when the clients write back, we don't have thousands of them, right? So the surveys that come in are very, very important. And when they write back and we get a 10, they don't just give us a 10 because they have relationships with us. They write about how our account managers have made their job a lot easier, made it better, saved them time, saved them money, made them look like a hero in their company because we're behind the scenes and these people, we make them look good. So they go on and on and on about how awesome the service is, and our employees get so much pride in reading that level of feedback that they wouldn't otherwise have. On the flip side, anytime we get less than a 10, people are like, oh my God, I need to go see what the heck is up with my client. And I'm like, oh my God, what the hell is up with the client? And they're not happy just because they're not upset because it's not a 10. They're upset because we're a hospitality organization at heart. And people in hospitality really care about providing an awesome service. So being able to get that level of visibility, I can reach out immediately, could have saved this huge account. My company would have been in a different league right now had I kept that client. So, and the other thing is, which I think is interesting, is it's fun. It's actually fun. The day we sent out the first survey, we were all literally sitting on the edge of our seat like, okay, when are we, how long is this person gonna, take to respond? And it was within minutes. We're like, oh my God, that's so cool. We know what's going on with that account. And people look forward to it, and I look forward to it, and everybody knows that it's just a part of our culture, it's part of their performance plan, and it's not optional to not use it and to not be aware of what's going on with the client. So I think in summary, to say that CustomerGauge has been transformational is the understatement of the year. Best decision I ever made, Clark, and probably quickest sale you've ever made. Didn't even get to finish his presentation. It's changed our company, and it's changed the way that our company sees customer service, and it's allowed us for me to be able to stand here and say we are the premier service in this space. So I came across this Chinese proverb recently, and it says, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is today. So what that means to me is I know some of you here are thinking about it, and some of you are customers already. And the reason I flew here from Boston is because this is a freaking amazing product. And this is my third Monetize conference, so I'm also a groupie of them. And they happen to be nice, very smart, hardworking people. But I can't imagine a business not having this. Like, I can't imagine anything in a business having a higher ROI than this. Because we all know it's much easier to keep your clients than to constantly be getting new ones. So, Chinese proverb, next best day to plant the tree is today. So, I'll leave you with that, and if one person I can save them having that terrible sinking feeling, then this trip was well worth it. So thank you for listening.
You blindsided me. I wasn't expecting to get that emotional. I should have checked. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
I knew the story. I just didn't know you were going to deliver it like
Well,
this.
this is, former church, so perfect.
Right. So I don't think I can be the one to ask the first question after this presentation. But yes, I'm sure you stirred up a few emotions beside mine. So.
Thank you for your very nice presentation. I was wondering that the feedback that you get from your clients, I'm sure it's about your service, but also about the food.
Yep.
So do you share this feedback with your vendors, and what is their reaction?
Absolutely. So our business model, like I said, we make nothing, okay? We make nothing, but we know how to find good stuff, and we make everything better. So the food, obviously, there needs to be good, which we curate, and we have a long due diligence process. We work with about 10% of restaurants that exist because they have to have good food, be reliable. And yes, we absolutely share that with them, and that is a question. And that's what I love about CustomerGauge, is it's not just, hey, rank us 1 to 10. It's rank us 1 to 10 and tell us what factors are important. And I think that's the beauty of it, is what is important, because we might be sitting there, I don't get to talk to customers as much as I did. So I might be sitting there thinking, you know what, the account manager is the most important thing, that's why we keep these people, when in reality it could be, they want better food, and we're not doing a good job picking the right restaurants. So that level of detail is what I think differentiates CustomerGauge. But yes, absolutely, we fire restaurants all the time. I mean, we make mistakes too, bringing them on, but now I have an awesome team here in the back, director of operations and former restaurant folks, that director of strategy. So they make us look good because they can tell when a restaurant is BSing, because they have 40 years of experience between the two of them. So yeah, food's important. People care about their food.
Thanks so much for your honest feedback. I really felt the emotion, when you said you'd lost that client. Felt as if I'd lost the client. Two things I wanted to ask you was, what was your retention rate before you started CustomerGauge? After you lost that customer, but before you started CustomerGauge. Mm-hmm. And also, do all your customers respond to your survey?
That's a very good question. Both are good questions. So a minute ago I said I don't like math, remember? So I don't know what our retention rate was. I never calculated it. I know we used to lose customers all the time. Maybe not as disastrous as this one. Smaller ones, I'm sure we lost that we could have prevented, but I just didn't know it. So I don't know what our retention rate was, but we used to lose customers all the time. We were hiring salespeople versus account managers because we constantly had to bring in new accounts. So that's the metric I need to know. Your second question was?
Do all your customers respond?
Oh, do all our customers respond? I would say most of them, yeah. Because again, our model, we're not a website where they're ordering and it's a human hospitality interaction. So we have strong relationships, that's how we win, and that's the differentiator, it's a hospitality service, it's not food delivery. So most of them do answer, and when they do answer, I always make sure to send a note just to say thank you, because it takes time, and the fact that they answer is a gift, frankly, because we can address things, even when it's not bad. We had one person last week say, you know, I don't like the fact that your service is great, but I wish you had a portal so I could see all of my previous orders. It's like, wow, that's probably, there's 100 people thinking that exact same thing, and not that hard for us to do. So that was a 10 score, but an awesome recommendation that I can implement immediately, and not just makes that client happy, but all the rest of them.
I think Andrew wants to ask you.
Andrew? Andrew, I want you to come back, do another training.
Hey, Christine. Yeah, we're going to get Brian out there for you to train you guys up again, but all your new folks that you hired.
Yes.
What sort of red flags do you look for in those surveys? So like you mentioned before, you didn't have us, you didn't know about the red flags. So what are you looking for in those comments, and when would you like step in?
Anything that's not a 10 concerns me, frankly. We're a premium service, so we're always the most expensive solution that these companies can get. And when you're the most expensive premier solution, you better deliver, and it better be a 10 every single time. You don't go into Tiffany's expecting it to have, half-assed diamonds sometimes and awesome ones the rest of the time. I like Tiffany's, so I like to use that example. Anything that comes in the blue box is good. So yeah, that's what I look for, is anything that's not a 10. Even the 10s, though, I write them thank you notes. It still takes time to do it. And the whole team knows that. So they're very unhappy with themselves if it's not a 10.
Yeah, I have to say, so I think why I'm so pleased that you, after the third time, finally came on a stage. You've done more Monetize than I have, actually, is that when we met, we both had exactly the same outlook. And so, of course, I thought, she gets it. But I think we do a very similar thing. We read each and every comment, and then the argument can be, yeah, but you might not have as much volume, but you relentlessly just survey every moment. And I think that's a great example to share. But also, we've heard other CEOs in other events talk about reading every comment, even when they have hundreds or thousands of pieces of feedback. I think it's more a mindset than it's like a volume. And I thought you just illustrated it. It actually is exciting to see the feedback and to not be blindsided. And also the positives, people will say things to your face. I mean, I've walked up to each and every one of you to ask you how you're feeling about the event. And I'm sure that you wouldn't start complaining to me about stuff. But, the things that aren't making you happy, we will survey each and every one of you.
My team was very honest.
Yes. So we did it also after the certification. And, of course, the feedback was on the food.
I didn't tell them to do that, by the way.
And they recommended that we started using you. So then I recommended Alchemista to come to Amsterdam first, which I think is a fair demand. But I think it's just really good to hear stories like yours. I think partly from a kind of like to prevent disasters from happening. And I agree with you. I also felt it. And the embarrassment that comes with it, and this was an even very more personal embarrassment. But I think also the fact that people just sometimes need to hear things unfiltered. So if you talk to each other, you will say certain things. But if you capture information through a neutral channel, people will just be a little bit more honest, and they will give you a little bit more insight, and you can actually start to count. So what you said is all these tiny little issues add up. And so for some of you, like ABI, it will be thousands of pieces of feedback, or Electrolux, or DHL. You're talking really big volumes, but it doesn't necessarily make it more relevant. It's relevant all the time. So
I think sometimes more so with, like in our case, I'm sure there's other businesses out there who have not, customers not in the thousands of them, but each one therefore is way more important that you keep them.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christine.
Go out this way. Go this way. Okay.